Welcome, everyone, to the Real Whovians Cast Unlimited. I am your host, Matrixlord212, and I'm with Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello.
How are you, bro?
You're doing okay today.
All right, so this is for the Daily Motion audience as well as YouTube, where people get to see your experiences with Doctor Who, your likes, your dislikes, since you started till now. So what I'm going to ask you first is, and I know I asked this in the past, I'm just going to have to ask it again. What was your first experience with Doctor Who?
It was years ago in the 70s. John Pertwee. John Pertwee was my first experience with Doctor Who, the third Doctor.
Was it, what episode was it? Was it Spearhead from Space, or was it a different episode?
Yeah, Spearhead from Space. From the very first time he appeared until now. That's been my experience with Doctor Who. Started watching it with Pertwee, and I like the Pertwee era. I like the Doctor Master and the Master are always coming back. Reminded me of the old Basil Rathbone films of Holmes and Moriarty. And Moriarty, you think, was caught at the end or dead at the end, and then in the next movie he's back.
Yeah, I used to love. I mean, I don't know which interpretations of it growing up, but I saw many different interpretations of Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty and different things. And there's even been so many different films too that we had. We even had a young Sherlock Holmes. I think that was with Spielberg. They try to take on that. I mean, Moffat's take is in the present time. There's even been like an animated series in the far future. I mean, they had all different kinds over the decades. Wasn't it Peter? Was it Peter Cushing that was in? Who was in the old Holmes ones with Professor Watson? Who was the original?
Basil Rathbone.
Yeah, and then after that,
there was one, and that Christopher Lee played Holmes.
Okay.
Peter Cushing. I think Peter Cushing played Holmes a lot.
Okay, that's what I remember. Okay.
Peter Cushing. Now, when I first got into Doctor Who back in the 70s, there was no internet.
Yeah.
We had to rely on magazines. Starlog just came out. I have issue number 2 of Starlog. I don't have issue number 1, but I still have issue number 2.
Yeah, it was very slow. I mean, I remember
that, and we had PBS. That's in the United States, Public Broadcasting Service, PBS. That's where we watched Doctor Who. We had to rely on whatever PBS told us, and magazines like Starlog.
Eventually, it was Doctor Who magazine. Eventually, but
didn't have the conventions back then either.
Yeah. I remember, like, I got beat up in school, in elementary school, because I saw Doctor Who and nobody saw it in my school, period. And I used to make believe like the tree was a TARDIS, and I had like made my own key and different things, and people are like, what the heck, thinking that Doctor Who was like a medical thing, and they're like, oh, what are you, like a girl, you like medical stuff? And they had no clue, and I actually got beat up a couple times, but and then everybody, of course, was into Star Wars and stuff like that, but I had no clue. And I didn't understand why nobody could see what I could see. I got my friend into it, my friend Anthony, in elementary school, and it was just me too. Both of us like Doctor. That was it. It was nobody in the whole, even in junior high, in high school, not one person that I knew like Doctor. Nobody knew what it was. Even when I went to like the bookstores, no calendars, no nothing. So it was just a weird experience. But so, would you watch it on like New Jersey Network or something, like 58? Or
I was watching on WXXI channel 21 in Rochester, New York.
Wow. Okay. So now, when you first got introduced to regeneration, I mean, were you all for it, or you were like angry because you didn't get to see your Doctor continue?
What happened was, for some reason, it skipped the regeneration and went right into Tom Baker, and I couldn't figure out what had happened. There was still TARDIS. There was still Sarah Jane. There was still Harry. There was still the Brigadier. But there was the Doctor was not Pertwee. And I thought, is this the Doctor when he was younger?
Right.
And then they showed the regeneration and go, oh, so the Doctor can regenerate because, okay, I buy that. And
Right.
And I thought, it's easy. Then if the actor wants to leave the series, they can still continue the series.
Right.
I thought it was actually clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was all for it.
I remember the first time I saw the first regeneration ever was when Tom Baker regenerated Peter Davison, and at the time, I guess I came in like the way the episodes worked out. I wasn't familiar with regeneration, so like when that first happened, I was upset because I was like, I was so used to Tom Baker, but then it was like the most memorable experience. Like I always quote that line: "It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for." Like I love that line. That's like one of my favorite lines. But then as time goes on, it's like, you get used to the fact that it can regenerate. But so when you started out, I mean, from the classic series, who was your favorite companions?
Well, I didn't like Sarah Jane. I did not like Sarah Jane as a companion. I found her to be whining and complaining all the time and always getting into trouble. In fact, a friend of mine, neither of us liked her, and we were real happy when she left.
Wow.
But I must say, the Sarah Jane in New Who is much better than the Sarah Jane of Classic Who. Leela. I loved Leela as a companion. When I finally got to see the older episodes, I thought Jamie was one of the best companions that the Doctor ever had, if not the best companion. And I felt bad that Jamie and Zoe, who have no memory at all of their time with the Doctor. Absolutely no memory.
That was very upsetting. I mean, I remember seeing that, and it was sad, but they rehashed that with Donna Noble. And then I was like, I never liked that because it's like, they evolve as characters.
Yeah.
The experience with the Doctor. And now
they go back to the way they were.
Then it's like they're dead. Like, they're not the same. They're not evolved. They devolve. And I was not, and when they start doing it like on a regular basis, I'm not great. They tried to do a Clara, and I was pissed after that point. I'm like, oh, come on now. Or even Bill, he wanted to do it. I'm like, this has to end. Where he never does that again. So, but what about for you? How many Doctors did you see before you went back to the original Unearthly Child and you saw William Hart? Like, how many Doctors were you already experienced before you said, let me just try out the original?
I think it was only two. I think it was during Tom Baker's period. What our PBS station did was they would show the Doctor Who that they had, but if you stayed awake around midnight to 2 a.m, they would take the old episodes and show them all together rather than 20 minutes and then come back next week for part 2, for part 3. You just put it all together, but they did it at midnight. And that's when I started watching the older ones so I could catch up. But it was during Tom Baker's period.
I remember when I saw Pete Davidson first come into play, and it was like Legopolis, and then the channel switched because I guess they had to film the new stuff. So they went all the way back to like John Pertwee or whatever, and then I have the 3 different channels that started carrying. It was 58, 21, and 31. And then I'm like, well, I didn't understand. I'm like, well, where is he? Because I didn't know. I was a kid. I didn't know they had to film and they had to do all that stuff. So I'm seeing John Pertwee, and then I'm like, okay. And then I got to see the Tom Baker before Pyramids of Mars, So and then I think one of the channels at the time, then I was getting more familiar with Generations. So I'm like, well, how many Doctors, And then another one started playing, I think, Patrick Troughton a little bit. and I was like, oh. So then I was just like, I was watching whatever I could find, and of course the one, I think it was New Jersey Network, Channel 58, had the hour and a half whole full block or whatever it was. If it was 4 parts or 6 parts, it was like, it wasn't split in parts. It was like just all together. But on the other channels, they put it as a half-hour segment every day. And you have to put 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because that was weirding me out too. But I do like the fact that they would have the cliffhanger and then to the next part, to the next part, to the next part. And they were longer too. I mean, new ones compared to back in the day. I mean, each episode, each part was like 25 minutes or something like that. Now it's like the whole episode today is like 45 minutes. A lot shorter than the originals were. But what about the monsters or villains or whatever you call it?
Well, back in around the time of Pertwee and Tom Baker, I think part of the charm of it was it looked cheaply made. The special effects and especially like that giant robot that suddenly grew with Tom Baker. It looked cheaply made, but I thought that was part of the charm of it. None of them ever frightened me. I wasn't scared of the Daleks. I wasn't scared of the Cybermen. I wasn't scared of any villain, any monster that he was up against. Delgado's master.
Oh, he was great.
Yep.
He was fantastic. I'm actually looking for my T-shirts. I got my T-shirts back from the kids. And I had all the doctors, like a T-shirt for each doctor. Have this was, I don't know if you could see it. It's Colin Baker. Yeah. They had these shirts in Hot Topic that I bought. And I'm like, oh, I got to have a T-shirt for every doctor. And it was like, look how great is that on a T-shirt,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. And of course they got the robot on the T-shirt for Tom Baker. I can find it. I don't know where it is now. I'm sure I'll find it. Oh, yeah, where is this thing? No, this is my other T-shirt. Hot Topic's got some good shirts. I usually use it for sleepwear. They have like a lot of Doctor Who stuff. But anyway, so your villains. I mean, Roger Delgado was an amazing performance as the Master, and then it was completely different when we got, the decrepit Master.
Yeah,
a different dynamic, a different. I don't think it clicked as well as but of course it was different doctors. So, but how do you feel knowing the classic and the new Who that the audios are having a master for David Bradley's first Doctor? I mean, are you upset about that, or are you like just?
I don't listen to the audios because they cost money, and I do have some of the Big Finish audios, but I don't listen to them on a regular basis for me to make a judgment on it. They have to have someone play the Master if they're going to have the Master. So
I mean, my question, I'm saying is like, you don't feel that that's canon, right? Compared to like with Doctor Who, I mean that's because they make it uncanon all the time.
I don't know why Big Finish wouldn't be canon. In fact, though, didn't they make everything canon in that mini episode with Paul McGann when at the end right before he regenerates, he mentions all the companions that he had.
Well, with the exception of the first one, didn't he not mention her from the TV, his first appearance, like the TV movie, whatever?
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was a legal thing
because of who owns the rights to the character.
Oh, okay.
He couldn't.
I always thought that Paul McGann was canon because we had nothing to see. So, of course, whatever he did, that's canon. But the other doctors, they already made stuff where stuff wasn't canon already. I think they contradicted certain things. I mean, I think there was a 7th Doctor one, which was what, Human Nature or something? Or is that a book? and they wound up making it into Tennant's episode or something.
I think that was a book that they wanted to make into Tennant's episode. I know they gave Colin Baker a proper regeneration.
Yeah, that I want to hear still.
Which
I caught the value.
I have that, and that's very good. And that doesn't contradict what happened. It actually enhances it.
So he got probably hurt, and then the thing hits the TARDIS, and he's regenerating. But it's actually he's regenerating not because the TARDIS got hit, because he got hurt, right?
Right.
That makes sense, because I never liked them putting the wig on Sylvester McCoy and say, "Yeah, there it is."
Yep.
You know, you died from being on the exercise bike, cracking your head into it's like, you know.
Yep. Exercising carrot juice killed him.
Yes, that's right. Because in the 80s, that was the whole thing, being fit and whatever. It was like, okay. What Doctor, like, were you not crazy about? Like from the classic series.
From the classic, I liked them all. There were,
what about the new?
Well, actually, the Peter Davison's. I didn't actually. He actually came across as too human. He was always weak. Came across as weak, fallible, constantly making mistakes. Basically, he came across what his future son-in-law would be as a Doctor. So out of all of them, he would be the weakest for me.
What about David Tennant? Going back to New Who, I mean, you weren't a fan of David Tennant?
Wasn't a fan of Tennant for the same reason, making mistakes, always apologizing. Plus, here's a 900-plus-year-old alien time traveler who falls in love with a 19-year-old human girl. Right. That didn't sit well.
But didn't Christopher Eccleston's Doctor fall in love with her first? Like, I mean, they asked him in interviews, and he said, yeah, he loved her and stuff. And it's like, even the Dalek episode.
I've never seen those interviews where he says that. I don't think he did.
Yeah.
Not to the extent of Tennant's.
Well, that's definitely
Tennant was in love with her.
Yeah, we know that.
Whereas the Doctor could love her, Tennant was in love with her.
Right. Do you think that it was because everything he faced in the Time War that he regenerated to be more human because he was kind of detached, and Rose had to show him you can't like shoot everybody with a gun. He was like ready to be like shoot the Dalek on time, and
that's writing. I mean, they wrote his character before they ever had a Time War written, so that's taking things on the Time War, which is written after his character was written, and putting it back. So, well, because of the time, but it wasn't there when they wrote his character. I think it was just to get a larger audience. The larger audience.
Oh, just to appeal to a larger audience, you mean?
Yeah, to appeal to a larger audience, we'll get this romance going between him and Billy
Piper.
Billy Piper's character.
And what about Matt Smith's Doctor? What you think of him?
I actually liked Matt Smith's Doctor. I liked him a lot. There were times where it was in the Sarah Jane Adventures where he was talking to Sarah Jane, or he was talking to
Joe Grant. Yeah.
Joe Grant, and it looked like he was channeling John Pertwee.
That was very well written by Russell T Davies.
Channeling Tom Baker. I thought he did very well as the Doctor. I really did.
Yeah. I really liked that Russell T Davies got to at least do an episode with Matt Smith, even though he wasn't with, Doctor Who anymore. But he got to, have it. That was great. I mean, I only wish that Russell T Davies got to write for Capaldi too. That would have been nice too.
Mm.
Because the way he writes is a lot different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
I always am open to different interpretations of different writers, where they see the Doctor and stuff. Even would have liked Neil Gaiman to write for Capaldi, but that never happened. All right, so what about when they introduced the War Doctor? How did you feel about that?
I didn't really like it. I didn't like the idea of the War Doctor. I mean, it worked out for what they have, but I thought it was a sort of a Moffat cheat that he
Yeah, I wasn't.
backed himself up into a corner. He didn't know how to get out of it, so he created. Well, there's another doctor, a war doctor, we'll call him.
I kind of like
the war doctor decides on genocide, who just wipe out the Daleks and his own people.
right. But then they try to make it like it never happened that way anyway, that they just didn't remember it. And it's like, I know. I mean, my thing was, I don't like it how they tried to make it that he had no regeneration energy when they just confirmed he did have regeneration energy in Nightmare and Silver, where Mr. Clever looked into his brain and saw that he wasn't lying, that he could regenerate again. Mm-hmm. And then he had energy to give River's song, like in her hands, and so it's like, how could you say now he doesn't have any regeneration? And I always was like, we had the biggest debate when I first came on YouTube about the regeneration from Stolen Earth, that it didn't count because it wasn't complete. But then they said it did count. So I was like, I just the confusion of like people trying to, well, we need to renumber the doctors. And I'm like, oh, what a headache. I never, even the fact that, for the first time, Moffat and Russell T. Davies were kind of at odds because Moffat was kind of messing with what Russell T. Davies did with some of the things that they didn't agree. They started like, disagreeing in Doctor Who magazine, so to speak. I mean, it's like, I just, I don't like when things change. Even when like Clara introduced the Doctors of TARDIS, I was pissed about that. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah,
I don't like when they retcon stuff. Like, keep the classics the way they are and keep the way, But so now, what do you think? What's your take on Capaldi? I mean, are you upset that he's kind of like? I mean, we could have had him for many more years, and now we don't. That's the first question.
I'm upset that he's leaving. I thought, out of all the new Who, I thought he was better than Tennant, Bennett, and Smith, maybe on par with Eccleston.
Right.
His scripts weren't the best.
No.
But he himself, and also he's been a fan since most of his life, since he was 15, if not younger. And now here he is, he's the Doctor. And I was hoping he was going to break Tom Baker's record.
Me too.
So I'm sorry that he's leaving.
Me too. Now, what do you think of this whole situation that there's a female doctor, they never cast a man for the role, they only cast a woman. We're even hearing reports now that she said she never seen anybody else audition, but she heard. So, I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think that
that's a mistake. Just a big mistake. Big mistake. Just to say you can just switch your gender, just like we switch our shirt. And being your gender is part of who you are. And if all the Time Lords don't know what their gender is going to be, it's messes up the whole situation of maybe are Time Lords allowed to have families, or are Time Lords allowed to be married? Maybe they're not. Maybe that's why the Doctor fled with his granddaughter. That meant the Doctor at one time had a family. Maybe he became a Time Lord after he had his family. Because if Time Lords are allowed to be married and have families, and then they regenerate and their gender suddenly switches, and how does your spouse relate to you? How do your children relate to you?
Right.
It's just a big
mess. I mean, they established with Neil Gaiman that one Time Lord did it, or Sailor, and it wasn't done. It wasn't done, and that one Time Lord did it, and then the Time War happened, and then after the Time War, then it's like, okay, the Sisterhood of Karn said to the Eighth Doctor, "Do you want to be a man or woman?" It's like, oh, what's this garbage? And then Missy's a woman. The Master becomes. I felt that the Master became a woman. That he had to have something special to become a woman. He said he needed an upgrade with the regeneration energy or something. But I thought that he only became a woman just to one-up the Doctor, just for shock value, just because he was crazy. You know? Not that he just did it normally. And even the General, who was a man but was always a woman, it just naturally reverted back to the way she was originally. But that's what people don't understand. The way they kept phrasing it was that it was something special had to happen to completely change the gender, not that it was just normal. So I really hope when this happens that there's going to be a definition of why it happens, and not that it actually happens all the time.
Well, my fear is that what's going to happen is Capaldi's Doctor is not going to regenerate at all. He's going to go with Clara and live happily ever after. And the first Doctor will regenerate to the woman, and everything that's happened from from Charlton on no longer has happened.
Do you think that's going to happen?
That's my fear. They're going to reboot the whole series that way, where she is now the second Doctor.
Oh God,
that's
I hope not.
That's my fear that that's their plan, because we know Clara is back. Why? Who knows? But it could be that Capaldi's Doctor refuses to regenerate, goes off to live happily ever after with Clara, and the first Doctor regenerates into the woman. Wow. And everything that's happened from the second Doctor on,
that would be horrible.
Didn't happen.
Horrible.
Start all over with a new Doctor.
I mean, if they're going to do something, I would hope that when Missy touched his hand, like maybe that exchange, like he tried to force her to be good, but she was already going to be good, so he didn't need to do that. But I always thought when she touched his hand, she put a message in his head, sort of like he put a message in Bill's head, like remember me or wait for me or whatever. So she put his head regenerate into a woman, be a woman. You know, and as he's about to regenerate, he'll see her pop up in his brain that will affect the regeneration to be a woman. You know, that's what I would think how it happens. Or maybe because he keeps expelling so much regeneration energy that one wave of regeneration energy is not enough, and then he has to become a woman. You know, because he keeps wasting it. I mean, this same regeneration, supposedly, he wasted it with the Daleks, you know? Unless that was just expense completely. I don't know. But I don't know if it recharges. I don't know how it works. But he's been trying to regenerate, I don't know how long with the finale, that he must have got hurt from, you know, the Master beating him up or whatever it was. So.
Yeah, I was hoping to the very end that Missy wasn't a Master, but Missy was an automaton who thought she was the Master.
Right.
Because they kept bringing them twice that Missy couldn't remember what happened that caused the Master to regenerate.
And then she remembered about the TARDIS, like he needed the device. So then, I thought when I saw that she knew she was going to die. Maybe that's why she created the whole Nethersphere thing, because when she was about to die last time, she popped right back into the Nethersphere. So, and that's why Moffat had put a line in Under the Lake Before the Flood about the Nethersphere, which made no sense. And he says the Nethersphere creates bodies.
Yeah.
So my interpretation is that, because Moffat's sly like that she's back in the Nethersphere, body's Missy, and that she's going to pop up with even though, you notice how Michelle Gomez is like, I'm not coming back. I don't believe it. I think that she's going to pop in after this Doctor's established for 1 year. That's going to be like this year 2 with Jodie Whittaker is going to be Missy popping in, and it's going to be a fan fest with all these people that, just to get people on board. Sort of like when they brought River in Matt Smith's episode 4 or whatever, just to like get people familiarized that it's the same show, So I have a feeling she's going to pop up again, But then again, I'm hearing stuff that Chibnall really likes John Sims' Master, that, he could do whatever he wants. So he could make it that maybe he does regenerate or something. I mean, he worked with him on Life on Mars before. So, You know, I mean, Chibnall tends to be going with his own actors that he's written for before. So I don't know. I mean, we're trying to hopefully. I just hope that when the Doctor becomes a woman, that it's not all about political. That he's just a man in a woman's body trying to adjust. And they don't. I mean, I'm against them having a male companion because I feel that just doesn't make any sense. That all of a sudden now he's a woman, so he has to have a male. I mean, does that change everything? I mean, what do you think your philosophy is with that? I mean,
yeah. Now, does the sexual orientation change?
Right. That's what I'm wondering. So I don't know. It was kind of weird that Moffat and Russell T Davies were actually contemplating having the Master and Missy do some type of weird thing and give a headache for Chibnall. Almost did that. Yep. And I'm like, he would have cursed them out. He's like, what are you doing? But that maybe that's why the Laws of Time are written and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm fearing that they're going to cut back the episode count with Doctor Who, where it's not going to be 13 plus a Christmas special or 12 plus a Christmas special, maybe 10 or 8. And we may not even get a Christmas special anymore, which I'm not really, I could get by with that because half the times the Christmas specials are like, you know? But what do you feel? You think cutting Doctor Who even, that's like detrimental to the show? I mean,
I think once the Christmas episode ends, they're going to lose half their viewers. And then they're not even coming back until August of 2018.
Right. Or even September.
Or even September. So I think no one's even going to tune in to watch. I don't think anyone's going to care. I think this is the end of Doctor Who.
And if you get any even later at that time, there's a jeopardy of them splitting it, which means we'll get no Doctor Who in no full new season in 19. We'll get a second half of, series 11, which is another problem.
I think that it's the end of Doctor Who. I think the ratings are going to go plummet, and they'll put it on hiatus. 20 years later, it'll come back. Maybe.
I mean, do you agree with? I mean, Tom Baker had said, look, regardless that he's all for it, if the ratings plummet, she needs to go, like just regenerate her. I mean, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, but it might be too late. I mean, like no one will be the ratings are going because no one will be watching. They regenerate her, but no one's going to tune back in. But she's still part of the thing. They have an anniversary special. They're going to have to include her, and no one wants her.
Unless you think they could actually retcon it where they prevent her existence and they get Capaldi back and they do something different with the regeneration, or that would be
unless they do it.
That's kind of like she probably wouldn't agree to that though. That would be disrespectful, no? Or
my fear. I just hope they don't do what my fear is, where Capaldi goes off with Clara and she's the second Doctor.
Well, the timeline is going to be screwed then. I mean, we heard rumors that the whole universe is going to be destroyed and that he's going to be, as he becomes a woman, he's going to be in a whole new universe that he doesn't really exist at all, or even the Time Lords, because of messing around with Clara, bumping around in the TARDIS. Like, she's supposed to go back. She's supposed to face the Raven. If she don't face the Raven, then Capaldi doesn't even regenerate because he's still there. It's like
we know everything happens back. We know Bill is back. We know Polly and Ben is back.
I mean, Nardole may be back. They said too.
How are they going to fit all of this?
And Ishilda may be there too.
Into what, 45 minutes? When you take,
I think it's a longer running time. I think it might be 60 or 70 minutes. I'm not sure yet. And even Mark Gatiss is a character in it too, so that's I'm really worried, but I don't know if you saw my initial reaction when they announced Jodie Whittaker. I think I cursed the most in any cast in history. I was very upset. Gloria was all the women on the cast were upset. I mean, we had Gloria, we had Vaughn, and we had Sally, and they were not happy. I mean, but then I said to myself, well, Doctor Who's been such a part of my life before I even knew how to read and write. I mean, how could I just not I got to give it a chance, you know. So I mean, I'm going to be like everybody else. I'm going to watch the Christmas special. I'm going to watch episode 1. But as far after that goes, I don't really know. I mean, hopefully it's not destroyed, but we'll see.
I'm going to watch the Christmas special, and that might be it. I don't even think I'll watch episode 1.
Yeah. So
it's so far off into the future, episode.
I know. And we got all these shows coming out now that he's going to have competition, Doctor. Well, she's going to have competition. You're going to have Lost in Space reboot. You're going to have Star Trek Discovery. You're going to have Battlestar Galactica reboot again. And Space 1999 reboot. I mean, everything's coming back. And it's like, yeah, so, I mean, a reboot of that. So, I mean, you know.
What are you going to call it? Space 2099?
Maybe, you know. But, all right. Thank you, Jimmy.
All right.
It's been a great cast. We'll be back maybe later today. Take care. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.